गिरीश जी, गुड आफ्टरनून। एक बार फिर स्वागत है आपका। आज बात करेंगे जवाहर सिरकार बड़ा फेमस हैं। ही हैज बीन सेक्रेटरी इन गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया, तो सीनियर आईएएस ऑफिसर हैं, अभी राज्यसभा के मेंबर हैं। उन्होंने एक आर्टिकल लिखा वायर में, जिसमें उन्होंने जो इंडिया री एक्सपोर्ट कर रहा है रशियन ऑयल यूरोपियन यूनियन को, उसके बारे में उन्होंने लिखा कि बेसिकली जो प्राइवेट प्लेयर्स हैं, प्राइवेट प्लेयर्स का मतलब क्या है, रिलायंस और एक कंपनी और भी है न्यारा करके, जो जिसमें रिलायंस के शायद स्टेक्स हैं। तो उन्होंने कहा जो बेसिक पॉइंट है कि जो प्राइवेट प्लेयर्स हैं वो एक्चुअली इसमें मेन बेनिफिशियरी हैं कि हम रसिया से चीप ऑयल इंपोर्ट कर रहे हैं और यूरोपियन यूनियन को री एक्सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं। तो मैं आपसे ये जानना चाहूंगा कि आफ्टर ऑल ये व्हाट एग्जैक्टली इज द कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी ऑफ ऑयल ट्रेड, इंटरनेशनल ऑयल ट्रेड, और इसमें प्राइवेट प्लेयर्स का क्या रोल है, पीएसयूज का क्या रोल है, और इंडियन गवर्नमेंट का क्या रोल है। सो ओवर टू यू गिरीश जी, दिस इज योर सब्जेक्ट एंड यू आर मास्टर ऑफ दिस, सो ओवर टू यू।
Thank you, Kana sir, and to our viewers. As I said earlier also, half-truth is the most dangerous thing one can have. And I have gone through the article written by Mr. Jawahar Sircar. It is based on half facts. Why I'm telling half fact? Either he has not been given the full picture, whosoever has provided him these details, or probably since it is a highly technical subject, so it may be not easy for everyone to understand the complexity of the topics. Now, I will put some facts for our viewers and let them derive their conclusion rather than we are giving them that points, what is right, what is wrong. First, let's understand our oil sector, or as far as E&P and other things were there, they were government driven or government controlled till 90s.
Okay.
This was a practice worldwide, and India was following state welfare model, and Russia was another thing. So we were having all controlled by state. So PSUs were having, whether it is in oil and gas में ONGC हो, Oil India हो, और refining में IOC, HPCL, BPCL, another thing. I'm talking of initial this period. Before that, it was a private. When India was, independent, at that time there were private company, Burma Shell and their thing, which was nationalized by government, and they all become government. So all oil and gas sector was under government directly or through PSU.
Okay.
So refinery and everything was driven by the policies decided by the government. Now, at that time, we were not looking for export and other things. We were not able to meet our own requirements. So that was not the priority and criteria. So all these people who have come from that generation, they have seen that particular mindset. And first thing is to meet our requirement. That is the best. And we were very happy with that. Okay, we are doing the one of the best. Because we have never seen what is happening outside India. We were Koop Manduk, and we were having a limited competition, and we never thought of we can compete with the international players. Now things has changed after Mr. Narasimha Rao changed the policies in early 90s, and private companies were allowed to enter into a mining and many other industries, and oil and gas was one of them. So now with this background, now what was happening, which was totally driven for domestic production. So what was happening, all our crude were coming from Middle East because they were the major producer and exporter.
Yes.
And we were having a good relationship with them. So majority of the crude is coming from Iraq, Iran, Saudi, and part of it from Oman and other nation, which is Middle East. And they were nearer. So crude oil was available nearby, and all our refinery. Now comes to the refinery. Refinery is a little complex subject. Though it looks very simple, you have place in refinery, you can go and make it, and then it will produce forever. Yes, it is a factory kind of a thing, which people can say in a simple term factory. But when you are designing and making that kind of a concept, one has to see long-term future. If I'm seeing just, okay, what is today my requirement and what from where I will get it and what is my product for next 5 years, it is okay. But when the private player comes, they look for a future for not for 5 years, for 20 years and beyond that. That is
Okay.
the difference between these people who were designing and commenting on oil and gas industries, because they have never seen international competition. They were in a comfortable zone without competition, because you are not allowing any other companies to come in, and then you play with your rule book and get away. Now, when the refinery comes in the Reliance plant, that refinery, which is the purpose of discussion, which Mr. Sirkar has said, and many other parties.
Yeah.
It is one of the largest refinery ever built in the world in 1999. I'm talking of 24 years back. Okay. Because all those refineries which we were having in India, they were over 60,000 barrel per day or
आप
120,000
इसकी
barrel.
जामनगर वाली रिफाइनरी की बात कर
I'm
रहे
talking of Jamnagar refinery.
हैं? ओके
So when in
ओके
1999 refinery was made, it was the world largest grassroots refinery.
ओके
Okay. So all Indians should be proud of its achievement that they had it. Second thing which they did it, that one of the most complex refinery ever built in India. I'm
ओके
not talking of India, but of the world.
ओके
Now, question comes, what is the advantage of having a complex refinery? The complex refinery means Nelson Complex Index, we call it. As
ओके
of now, for the sake of number, just we need not to go into technicality. The refinery of Reliance is 21.1.
ओके
Okay.
ओके
Whereas the next Indian refinery is 12.
ओ
And next is 10. And
ओके
these 12 and 10 index of Bina and other refinery which were of the Paradeep, which is by the BP, is
ओके
built after Reliance Refinery. Okay.
ओके
The
ओके
question is why they have 12 and 10, why they have not gone for it. It's a different topic, because as I said, they are having a different, objective which was given by the government, and accordingly they have gone for it, because they have designed their refineries for a particular crude which is coming, and they have to meet the requirement of the Indian public. Whereas the refinery by the Reliance is designed that if what happen, government policy change and they allow no Indian companies can export or import, or no companies are allowed to sell in India. So refinery is one-time investment, hundreds of $1 billion you're investing, means not 100 billion, but I'm telling you overall complex and
या
associated.
यस
So you have to take care that what will happen if situation change. So you have to be competitive internationally. If you are
Okay.
competitive internationally, you can meet all challenges, whether domestic or overseas. So Reliance has built refinery in two phases. The initial phase was say around 688,000 barrel per day, 0.6 or 0.7 million barrel per day. And another refinery was built on a special economic zone in Jamnagar itself, which was
Okay.
totally for export oriented. So
Okay.
total capacity is around 1.28 or 1.3 million barrel per day, out of which 50% is totally for export purpose, and other is 50% is domestic as well as for the export.
Okay.
But quality and complexity make it possible to meet and you can say compete with the best in the world, whether
Okay.
it is US, whether it is Europe, or whether it is Middle East and other things. Complexity makes it advantage, because Reliance is not like Middle East, like Saudi or Kuwait. They are having their own crude oil. They need not to depend on other, import of crude. So their
Yeah.
refineries simple and produce and product as per their crude. Whereas the Reliance or the other players, like even PSU, has to depend upon the crude which they are importing. So higher the complexity, it means they can handle any kind of the crude. The higher the number, like Reliance, which is having 21.1, so they can handle any kind of crude which is produced and exported. Now, why I'm telling use the word exported means it is not like if it cannot be exported, in Reliance cannot import it. So any crude oil which is produced and exported can be handled in Reliance Refinery.
Okay.
And the same thing gives an advantage. Now, how it is given advantage? When the crude price is one of the major input in the once you're exporting your product. Now, exporting a product, you are competing with the Saudi, Kuwait, and which are oil producing countries. So they're having their own oil, whereas you are having only service. You're putting your value in processing the crude oil.
Hmm.
So what happens? India or other refiners, they import cheap oil, which is dirty oil, you call it, or you call it a sour crude oil or heavy crude oil like Venezuela and other places. The thing is, once they are that, so it is difficult to handle that. So their demand is limited. Suppose other crude oil, the Middle Eastern crude oil, or we can say Oman, UAE mix, or Brent, or WTI, suppose they are being sold at a price of, let's say, $100. I just for the number say.
Yeah.
These heavy oil you will get at a discount of 10% or 12% or sometime, depending upon the requirement. So this gives an advantage to compete with the other, your competitor like Saudi or other countries which are also exporting petroleum, diesel, ATF and other derivatives. So in any sensible businessman, whether government or private, they have to see that how long you can competitive apart from your comfortable zones like sitting in India and then you are doing, okay, now I will put a rules and regulation and I will not allow import, or so that only I will be able to. So this is not possible with the private refinery. So this was the difference which many of the people are not knowing, that Reliance has plays an initial very heavy cost for the refinery. The more the complex, more the cost, but it can handle all variety of crude. So which gives an advantage. Now, another point which will be easier for people to understand, our viewers, is Singapore is one of the benchmark of the petroleum refinery products which they are selling and other things. So they call it GRM, gross refinery margin. Means if you are producing a barrel from crude oil and then producing a diesel or products, how much one refinery can earn per barrel. Let's say it. So, and Singapore is one of the best benchmark worldwide, and everybody compare it with them. So it is like $8 or sometimes $9 per barrel, depending upon the oil prices. Lower the oil price, lower the margin. Higher the oil price, higher the margin. Crude oil price I'm talking. Whereas most of our refineries are plus minus 1 or 2% or maybe slightly lower, our PSU refineries, with respect to Singapore margin, because they are designed for a different purpose, as I said, for the crude, basically for Middle East. Whereas the refinery from Reliance is giving at least $3 to $4 more than Singapore benchmark per barrel. Now, so this gives them advantage for Reliance to export anywhere in the world. And you will be surprised which are the major destination of export of refinery since 99, or let's say when they have second. Can you guess?
Must be because this is the most complex refinery, so they must be exporting to the top countries.
See, India is one of the major exporter Reliance, and they were exporting to US and Europe. Okay, so what I'm trying to say, where the industry standards, competition, and the quality of product and other thing, if we have to look into that, so Indian refiners are competing and getting best, out of these places. So you can say, as I said, when you are designing and working for a thing, you have to think of a world figure, not confining yourself to I am competing with Sri Lanka or I am competing with Myanmar and happy with that. So that is not the way. So this is the difference between refinery which is Reliance or Nayara is having versus other.
गिरीश जी, एक बात बताएं, ये जो रिलायंस वाले हैं, मैं देयर इज नो डाउट कि आई कुड अंडरस्टैंड कि जो बड़ी कॉम्प्लेक्स रिफाइनरी है, और बड़ी कॉम्प्लेक्स का मतलब है मॉडर्न रिफाइनरी है जो किसी भी तरह की क्रूड को हैंडल कर सकती है। इससे पहले भी, यूक्रेन वॉर से पहले भी तो ये एक्सपोर्ट कर रहे थे। एम आई राइट टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट?
वेरी गुड क्वेश्चन सर। Let us understand the India's consumption and production and export thing.
Yes.
Okay. India consumption as of now, I'm talking of something around 20 after COVID or pre-COVID, because COVID
Okay.
situation, we had a everywhere worldwide, the industrial growth was reduced and we are negative everywhere. So we can say we were consuming approximately 4 million barrel per day, or little less before like during COVID. But
Okay.
even you can say once we have again come back to in 22, 23 when the COVID impact was over, so around 4 million barrel. Whereas
Okay.
our Indian refining capacity overall is more than a 5 million barrel per day. So
Okay.
since 2008, 2010, we are exporting a million barrel per day, irrespective of war happens in 22. But we were exporting approximately a million barrel worldwide before
Per
that,
day. Okay. Okay.
per day. So finished product was there. So, and let me give you one very interesting figure, which many people are maybe news to them. You know, which is the biggest exporter from India?
I thought it must be uh, one of the maybe one of the PSU, but Reliance is also a good contender.
No, we were having an IT as a major export
Of
in
course, industry
export.
wise, to IT, no
IT.
doubt about that.
Reliance is the biggest exporter earner for country.
Yes.
15% of the total export of India is coming from Reliance. I'm not talking of this Ukraine war, or I'm talking of prior to that also. Okay. So
Okay.
people were not realizing that India is very good in service. Now, why I'm telling service means IT, pharma, refining, petchem. These are the sector which is giving edge to India, compete with the best in the world and earn foreign exchange. And that's the reason we are not facing situation like what is our neighbors are facing or many of the European nations are facing. Why? Because we could withstand this volatility of crude oil shocks or inflation and many other factors.
Okay.
Now, one point which was raised in the other point was, I think, earlier also we have discussed in one of the video, is that when the war has happened, why India has not faced that much inflation vis-a-vis Europe, US,
Yes.
and
Yes.
many other countries. One of the major reasons why India was successfully isolated itself, I'm not telling not inflation high, but not to that extent double digit and other thing, because of the government of India policy. Government of India policies was that to restrict or keep the finished product price like petrol, diesel, which is a major reason for inflation, because we are transporting one product from here to there, and the transportation cost is one of the major cost in and day-to-day life, whether it is eatable or other items. So India kept that price fixed. So whether oil prices prior to Russia-Ukraine wars were around 70, during war it was above 100, and after that, which is now around $80 per barrel, still we are selling product approximately what was the price was 70. So this isolation kept Indian economy to certain extent uh, save all public from that inflation. So this is one of the best policy. One has to realize that central government took that decision, and now other governments are realizing, but it's quite late. And now US is facing that more than double digit, and Europe is, of course, they have to blame themselves for their own action.
गिरीश जी, एक मेरे क्वेश्चन है, इनफैक्ट ये जो जवाहर सरकार है, इन्होंने एक बात कही है कि जब मनमोहन सरकार थी तो उस टाइम पे इंटरनेशनल ऑयल प्राइस से अराउंड 100 से ऊपर था, एंड फिर भी वो पेट्रोल और इसका रेट 70 के आसपास था। और अभी जब इंटरनेशनल ऑयल प्राइस कम है, उसके बावजूद भी जो प्राइस है वो 100 को क्रॉस किया हुआ है इंडिया में। तो जो आपका पॉइंट है कि इन्होंने प्राइस कैप लगाया हुआ था, तो इर्रेस्पेक्टिव ऑफ इंटरनेशनल प्राइस वो ज्यादा होता कि कम होता, दोनों ही हालत में, दोनों ही सिचुएशंस में इंडियन गवर्नमेंट ने ये डिसाइड किया हुआ था कि जो पेट्रोल का और डीजल का प्राइस है इंडिया में वो एक स्टेबल रहेगा, इट विल नॉट फ्लक्चुएट। एम आई राइट टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट?
Partially. Why
ओके।
I'm telling is the difference between what Mr. Manmohan Singh government and Mr. Chidambaram has done during that
ओके।
period, and now what Mr. Modi and Mrs. Nirmala Sitaraman has done.
ओके। ओके।
Now, we will ask what is the difference. Now, earlier what was happening? Government has kept price fixed. Okay, all PSUs and all whatever companies you have to sell price at let's say 70 rupees,
Okay.
even though price was actual. They were making something around say 80 rupees or 90 rupees, whatever be the thing. So 10 rupees, 12 rupees, whatever the loss they are making, they were telling, okay, we are issuing you a bond. You
Oh.
use this bond as a receivable after 5 years. So means government was running from 2009 to 14, but these companies were not paid their dues. They were promised that in 2016, means after 5 years or after 6 years, you will get this money. So bond was given, which is showing healthy in their book, but there was no money was transferred to these PSUs. Now, what has happened? Bonds were in lakhs of crore rupees. The total, because every day you're losing a lot of money. But
Yes.
government easily passed on this. UPA government has easily passed on that burden for the future coming government, because they
Oh
said,
my God. Hmm.
so this thing will come to the 2014, we'll see at that time, or 2016, we'll see at that time. So this was
Okay.
the worst period for new government which came in 2014. So what they
Hmm.
did, if they have continued, then the burden on the public would have been much higher. So what they did, when the oil prices were a little lower and we can say cool down, they still not reduce the price, and that extra money was returned back to the PSU, so that PSU remain
Okay.
healthy. So
Hmm.
thousands of crore was every year were passed on to the PSUs for the loan, or which which was used by the UPA government.
तो
So it is not one and the same thing.
नहीं गिरीश जी, ये तो फिर एक तरीके से आपने ये हुआ कि आपने चीज तो आज खरीदी और पेमेंट आपने 5 साल बाद करना है, और आपने तो करना ही बिकॉज यू एक्सपेक्ट टू बी आउट ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट.
What I would say, so they have passed on, okay, I'm not looking into that. And now PSU, if they go like Air India or many other PSU which has gone down, so they will blame it to the management, ki say they are not performing.
बट
Whereas
दिस
it was
दिस इज
not there,
डेंजरस.
it was the government decision which forced them to go into. But on book, they were showing receivable. Now this receivable was after 6 year, 8 year, and suppose government of the day continuing with the policy which was there in UPA, now you can understand what would have been like what happened to Air
गिरीश जी,
India or many other places.
गिरीश जी, मतलब जब मैं आया बैंगलोर गया था तो उसमें जो फाइनेंस वाला जब बैलेंस शीट डिस्कस कर रहे थे, तो जो फाइनेंस की प्रोफेसर थी, एक लेडी प्रोफेसर थी, उसने एक आंसर दिया था किसी क्वेश्चन का. कहा था कि कैश इज कैश, बाकी सब माया. तो आपने जो रिसीवेबल की बात की और ऑयल बॉन्ड्स की बात की, जो यूपीए गवर्नमेंट ने इशू किए इन पब्लिक सेक्टर अंडरटेकिंग को, तो ये तो माया थी,
That's
लिटरली.
what I said, sir. This is half truth. What he said is halfly correct. That
हम्म.
price capped at this is correct. But how? He has to explain that they have passed on this burden to the incoming generation. Like you are taking a loan and then you are making your child to bear your burden after 20 years or 15 years. Is it right? So this is one, our viewer can take a call whether it was a right decision or wrong decision. But it was that government of that time in before 2009 to 14, they have passed on this burden to incoming government which will come in 2016. They knew that, okay, let's hope we need not to worry on that. So this is the
ओके.
freebie which culture which was started and which is hurting the economy.
गिरीश जी, अभी एक्चुअली इतनी नॉलेज है आपको, तो ये कॉम्प्रहेंड करना बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है पूरे ट्रेड को. अभी आपने देखा होगा जोसेफ बोरेल वाला स्टेटमेंट भी आपने पढ़ा होगा, और एस जयशंकर ने भी उसके ऊपर कमेंट दिया है. जोसेफ बोरेल टॉप डिप्लोमेट है यूरोपियन यूनियन का, और उसने स्टेटमेंट दिया कि वी नीड टू इन्वेस्टिगेट, यूरोपियन यूनियन नीड टू इन्वेस्टिगेट कि आफ्टर ऑल इंडिया रशियन ऑयल को इंपोर्ट कर रहा है और फिर हमें एक्सपोर्ट कर रहा है, तो कौन सा ऑयल एक्सपोर्ट कर रहा है, इज इंडिया वायलेटिंग द सैंक्शंस. और उसका ऑफ कोर्स जयशंकर जी ने जवाब भी दिया, तो मैं आपसे उसके बारे में जानना चाहूंगा.
See, it's a. I was surprised with this kind of a statement by such a highly decorated or highly positioned diplomat's position. The reason is very simple. Before war, Europe had stopped constructing new refineries. I'm not
ओके.
talking of 2020, 21. I'm talking of since early 2000 because of pollution and other thing. They were very happy that we can buy petroleum product or our requirement from anywhere in the world. We have to pay pound or dollar and
we
we
will
can
get
buy
it.
it. It was a simple decision and it was a decision right in from their point of view. Now, it was their decision. Nobody forced them that from where to buy it, where not to buy it, because all their dependency was on energy was basically on Russia, whether it is Germany, whether it is Italy, or whether it is other countries. I'm leaving Britain and Norway out because they are having uh, other source production. So they are not so much dependent on like Germany, France, and Italy. So once the European Union taken a call, okay, we will not, uh, take crude oil or gas and other things. So immediately they faced the music because Russia stopped rather than there. The moment thing has happened, the prices of the gas has gone up from $12 to $60, $80 per MMBTU. I'm talking of during the war period. So
Yes.
India also faced that, worldwide everybody faced that problem. Now they again, because they have taken a decision, they are not realized that they are hurting more than the enemy. जिसे बोलते हैं हिंदी में ना, सांप भी मर जाए लाठी भी ना टूटे. This should have been their practice, but unfortunately सांप तो मरा नहीं, लाठी उनकी सारी टूट गई. But their decision to isolate Russia, because they were thinking Russia dependency on energy, since they will not buy, it will be difficult. They are not realized that worldwide there are many other countries who can handle Russian oil. As I said, China and India and few other countries can handle that. So vacuum which is created by Europe was filled in by India and China. And this is initially crude oil and we have taken and we're using it. Now they have said, okay, we'll not take finished product also, because earlier they were not taking crude, but they are taking the finished product. Now, who was hurting in this? Because most of the traders of crude oil and finished products are European and Japan. They're having the
Okay.
biggest trade house worldwide. So worldwide trade, whatever is happening here and there, purchase like a small quantity purchased by one country, that country. So we are buying it from this trade house. Now, because of the European Union and US sanction, these trade houses were not able to deal with the Russian crude and Russian products. So they lost their business and things has come back to the China and India. We can handle and then we can give it back to them. This has resulted into a major problem because Europe have not stopped consuming energy, but they have stopped from shop A. So they are buying it from others. Now, India is not hiding or telling anything, okay, this product is, this is the refined product. Like, so you had purchased a raw material from one place, you have added value, you have done your refinery, and then giving a finished product. If you are not buying, somebody else will buy. So India is not depending upon European market. As I said before 2020 also, India was exporting 1 million barrel. Today also it is exporting 1 million barrel. Now only thing, destination has changed. Earlier, our main, even today also, let us say, even in the early 2023, we are giving around 0.2 million barrel per day finished product to US, even today.
Okay. Even today.
So
Okay.
what is that investigation to be done? We are producing, we are giving, and anybody who's interested, who's having short supply of their product, we are supplying. So India is exporting earlier also. India is exporting now also. Only thing, if suppose Russia, European is not taking, then somebody else will take it. So it is demand and supply. And as of now, there is a sufficient demand. So it is Europe, they have to decide. It is not India has to decide. So I think the answer given by our external affairs minister is very appropriate, and it only shows that probably these people are the decision maker to take a call that energy will not take it from Russia, and now they are facing the heat, so they are justifying and come out with such kind of statement. I will not be surprised if he may be one of the influencer or the decision maker who took this kind of a decision. But we don't know, so it's we can't comment whether it is right or wrong.
हाँ, ट्विटर पे भी एक्चुअली काफी लोगों ने क्रिटिसाइज किया हुआ है कि यूरोपियन यूनियन को अगर कहीं और से मिलता है तो वहां से ले लो, व्हाई टू टेक इट फ्रॉम इंडिया।
Correct.
और दूसरा किसी ने क्रिटिसाइज किया कि तुम लोग इंडिया पे फोकस करने के बजाय अपने आप पे फोकस करो, फोकस ऑन रसिया, उसके साथ निगोशिएट करो और लड़ाई का जो करना है वो करो, यू नो दैट सॉर्ट ऑफ। तो काफी लोगों
See,
ने फिर इसको जोसेफ बोरेल को क्रिटिसाइज किया
they have
हुआ
to
है।
so they have to keep their house in order. They have to realize where they made mistake. If they need not to understand that what their top commander of the Germany said, that they should have given thought and understand the requirement of the Russia, the war would have been averted. So even in their own country, people are there who are talking what should have been, but what they've done, Germany has removed that top commander, a naval commander who made this comment when he was on visit to India. So there are many people who understand this thing, but because of the politics, local democratic compulsion, other thing, they have to, take a call. And since they have taken a position, they have to continue with that. But somehow they will realize that it can't continue for long. And world is not looking at problem of the Europe is the world problem. So neither Africa nor Asia and nor America is looking into that. Yes, it is a European problem, and they
दे
have
हैव
to
टू
sort it
सॉर्ट
out.
इट आउट। तो गिरीश जी, मेरे ख्याल से बहुत ही अच्छा एक्सप्लेनेशन आपने दिया। और कोई पॉइंट इसमें आपको लगता है जो क्लैरिफिकेशन के लिए जरूरी है, और वी हैव कवर्ड ऑल द पॉइंट्स?
See, as I said, another point which is to be understand, Reliance or whatever the Indian politician or Indian government is understanding, I said it is a very good policy of the government of India to keep prices fixed of the petroleum product like diesel, petrol, and other things. But they should not have put windfall tax on ONGC, Oil India, and petrol in Reliance and other. Why I'm telling? Because they are their main pillar of energy. If they are not allowing these companies to have some fund for their modernization, as I said, until unless you keep modernizing your complexes, industries, you can't remain world beater. And India has to world beater to compete worldwide. So these taxes and these windfall tax should not have been placed on ONGC, Oil India, Reliance, or any other companies. If they uh, pass on this burden to on the larger front rather than only 4 or 5 companies, this will help both country as well as these industries.
They have already removed it, I think windfall tax अभी
Yes,
मेरे
it
ख्याल
is
से
there,
उन्होंने
but
निकाल दिया।
they should not but this article talk about the windfall tax and that thing, but windfall tax is no more applicable now. And as such, we are only producing 15% of our crude oil requirement. And by putting tax on ONGC and Oil India, what are we earning? It's basically you are गरीबी में आटा गीला है आप, well, already you are not having sufficient fund for your exploration and other activities, and you are taking out whatever little left for future exploration. We are taking that chance also. So ONGC, Oil India, and this refiner should be left without this extra burden and not put so much pressure by the Ministry of Finance.
आई
That's
एग्री
my
विद यू। मुझे एक चीज और लगती है गिरीश जी, हमारे यहाँ इंडिया में क्या है, ये जो मिक्स्ड इकोनॉमी का कंसेप्ट आया और उसके बाद कुछ समहाउ पॉलिटिकल एनवायरनमेंट ऐसा लगता है कि कोई प्राइवेट प्लेयर अगर बड़ा बन जाता है, जैसे रिलायंस है, अडानी है या और कोई है, मैं ये नहीं कहता कि उनके ऊपर रेगुलेशंस नहीं होने चाहिए, जरूर होने चाहिए, बट ओवरऑल पब्लिक सेंटीमेंट को आप कभी भी उनके अगेंस्ट में कर सकते हैं कि रिलायंस ने इतना पैसा बना लिया, अडानी ने इतना पैसा बना लिया। रिलायंस के चलो पॉलिसी है कि दे विल नॉट कमेंट, एंड दे ऑफ कोर्स शुड नॉट कमेंट, बट द फैक्ट इज के कितना पहले उन्होंने इतनी कॉम्प्लेक्स रिफाइनरी बनाई, मतलब हैट्स ऑफ टू देम, और उन्होंने इन्वेस्ट किया, दे टूक ए बिजनेस रिस्क। तो वी शुड बी प्राउड ऑफ देम रादर देन कि हम उनको क्रिटिसाइज करें। जैसे जवाहर सरकार का जो आर्टिकल है, मुझे लगता है ही वॉज ए ब्यूरोक्रेट, तो ब्यूरोक्रेट को इस ऑयल इंडस्ट्री के बारे में कितना पता होगा, आई एम रियली नॉट वेरी श्योर। और फिर भी एक आर्टिकल लिख दिया कि हाँ, मोदी जी ने रिलायंस की हेल्प करने के लिए रशिया से इंपोर्ट कर दिया और यूरोप को एक्सपोर्ट कर दिया। लिखने में क्या जाता है, कौन सी अकाउंटेबिलिटी है? ओवर टू यू।
Sir, the difference between visionary and a normal bureaucrats or these people are that the same. You have seen visionary like Mr. JRD, Tata, Dhirubhai, and others. That's the reason these industries are world beater. not because of the regulators who are just sitting in a air conditioned room and talking without making understanding of the subject. So thank God we are having a visionary in government as well as in public sector and private sector, and they are taking our country to not only meet but the beat the world best.
गिरीश जी, थैंक यू सो मच, इट हैज बीन ए प्लेजर इंटरेक्टिंग विद यू। ज्यादातर लोगों को ये बात पता नहीं कि रशियन ऑयल और जो मिडिल ईस्ट से ऑयल आता है वो डिफरेंस कितना है, सल्फर कंटेंट कितना डिफरेंट है। और ये सल्फर कंटेंट और इस तरह के जो बाकी फैक्टर्स हैं वो एक्चुअली डिसाइड करते हैं कि ये कौन सी रिफाइनरी में प्रोसेस किया जा सकता है। रिलायंस हैज बीन वेरी वेरी स्मार्ट। अगर आप देखो तो जो कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी है जामनगर प्लांट की वो इतनी ज्यादा है कि वो किसी भी तरह के क्रूड ऑयल को हैंडल कर सकता है, प्रोसेस कर सकता है, रिफाइन कर सकता है। जो पीएसयूज के हमारे पास जो मैन्युफैक्चरिंग फैसिलिटी है, दे कैन नॉट डू दैट, एंड दैट इज द रीजन व्हाई रशियन ऑयल इज बीइंग इंपोर्टेड, then being refined by Reliance and then getting re-exported. And it is all through the legal process. Fact remains, Jawahar Sircar ने जो आर्टिकल लिखा, that is with the malicious intention of misguiding people. And that is what Girish ji has said. Half truth is very, very dangerous. एक पॉइंट और मैं आपसे कहना चाहूंगा, और वो ये कि we have to be profit oriented. प्रॉफिट अर्न करना कोई बुरी बात नहीं है। रिलायंस अगर एक्सपोर्ट करता है तो हमें डॉलर्स मिलते हैं। आप समझ सकते हैं, टोटल एक्सपोर्ट का अगर 15% रिलायंस के थ्रू हो रहा है तो इंडिया इज बेनिफिटेड। इंडियन गवर्नमेंट को जितना भी रेवेन्यू मिलेगा एक्सपोर्ट के थ्रू, आफ्टर ऑल वो देश का है और देश के लिए ही फिर उसका एक्सपेंस होता है। जितनी वेलफेयर स्कीम्स हैं वो सब भी तो फाइनेंस होती हैं। I hope people understand this point, because if they don't understand, then we are the losers, and people like Jawahar Sircar, they can manipulate them, mislead them, misguide them. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. I will see you in next video. Thank you.